Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal. With the patch 9.2, Blizzard added a brand new mode for Torghast called the Jailer's Gauntlet, which is a boss rush mode that takes all the boring parts out of Torghast and instead lets you fight powerful elites and bosses back to back while using some of the strongest powers your class can collect inside of the Tower of Torment. During PTR, this mode got very positive reception from the community, with many describing that this is what Torghast should have been from the get-go. With this new game mode, you can earn new rewards like achievements, a title, a pet, a Hearthstone toy, as well as a brand new mount. And in this video, we will go over some of the tips that you need to know in order to have an easier time at tackling this new challenge mode of Torghast. But right before that, most of you guys watching these videos are still not subscribed. However, the more of you are reminded, the more of you do. So let's keep it going. Subscribe to the channel as well as hit the bell if you're watching these videos anyway, especially if you want to see more regular updates, content, and guides for the patch 9.2, as well as future potential 10.0 World of Warcraft announcements. First of all, the Jailer's Gauntlet mode is the new challenge mode of Torghast. That means it's going to be difficult to tackle at first. So my number one advice is to play a spec of your class that has the easiest time tackling through this content. First of all, it is recommended to do the Jailer's Gauntlet as a tank if your class can spec into one. Many of the powerful bosses and elites are scaled differently for tanks and healers, and generally most of them start off with less health than if you were to play a DPS. All the tank specs also come with naturally better survivability, and they can usually take on multiple elites and bosses without fearing for their health. Because tanks are naturally durable, you'll want to focus mostly on the different powers that increase your damage output, so you can defeat some of the elites and bosses as quickly as possible. So for the classes of Death Knight, Demon Hunter, Druid, Monk, Paladin, and Warrior, all of these classes have a tanking spec, and if you want to have an easier time inside of the Jailer's Gauntlet, you might want to consider playing a tank for this mode. Now for the rest of the classes that don't have a tanking spec. For the class of Hunter, I recommend playing Beast Mastery. This spec of Hunter can tame some of the strongest and tankiest pets in the game, and having a tanky pet to draw all the aggro from you onto them will help you be more survivable. The spec is also pretty easy to pick up and is very mobile, which will help you out when trying to dodge certain spells and abilities that elites and bosses will use against you. For the class of Mage, the spec I recommend is the Frost Mage. A lot of your Frost abilities from Blizzard, Frozen Orb, Frostbolts, and more will have a natural slow attached to them, which will allow you to kite many of the elites and bosses while you chip away at their health from a distance. For the class of Priest, I found Discipline Priest to be the easiest. However, you can play whatever spec you want to, or the one you're more comfortable with. The reason I picked Disc Priest is because, just like tanks, healers inside of Torghast are scaled differently. Many of the enemies you will fight have less health than if you were to play a Shadow spec. As a healer, you also have pretty good self-survivability. You're not quite tanky like a tank, but you're able to heal through large portions of damage as long as nothing in there one-shots you. When it comes to rogues, I think Outlaw is a little bit stronger. You have a natural cleave with Blade Flurry, which will let you do decent single target while cleaving enemies evenly. The harder you hit your primary target, the harder you hit everybody else. You also have the ability of Gouge, which will give you a little bit extra crowd control to add into the mix. Plus, the cooldown reduction on many of your abilities will let you vanish when things get really tough a lot more often. For the class of Shaman, just like with Priest, I recommend playing the healer, Restoration Shaman, because mobs will scale differently and will have less health for you to fight through. As a healer, you're able to heal yourself whenever you take damage, which will make you more survivable. But also as Restoration, you have access to Earth Elemental, which will help draw some of the aggro to you, and you can just heal your Earth Elemental as it takes a lot of the damage. For the class of Warlock, you can play any spec you're more comfortable with. All three specs can summon a tanky demon that will hold a lot of the aggro away from you, letting you unleash chaos from safety of distance. The next advice is don't forget to use consumables if you're struggling in the Jailer's Gauntlet. When you head into content like raids and dungeons, you want to make sure your character is ready, which is why you'll visit your nearest auction house to buy things like flasks, weapon oils, healing potions, and more. A lot of these items you will use in PvE content can also be used inside of the Jailer's Gauntlet. And sometimes these items can be very helpful, like armor kits to give you more health to survive certain boss abilities, or potions to amplify your damage and defeat some of the more challenging elites and bosses. Most of these items aren't that expensive, depending on your server economy, and can be crucial when it comes to trying to defeat the final boss of the challenge, but you're just not quite there. The next advice is a little bit cheesy, but you can keep resetting the challenge until you get the perfect powers. When you walk into the very first floor of your challenge layer, you will be met with 3 anima powers presented to you at the start. Using these anima powers, you can sometimes come up with a crazy strong build off the get-go. However, if the first few powers that the game presents to you are not optimal or perfect or really all that useful, you can always run out and run back in and see what other powers the game will throw at you next. Remember, this is a challenge mode for Torghast. The Jailer's Gauntlet isn't easy, so if you're struggling, you can always keep resetting until you get your godly combination before you make an attempt. If you're struggling with some of the floors of the Jailer's Gauntlet, you can always group up with other players, and that's going to be my next advice. Listing your group up on LFG and picking up other players stuck on the same floor can give you multiple advantages. For once, you can form a group with a tank and healer and 3 DPS, kind of like a dungeon group, where the tank will hold the aggro of all the powerful elites and bosses to make sure the rest of the party will stay safe. The healer will keep the tank alive and provide him with buffs and support, while the DPS can mostly focus on just doing damage. With a bigger group, you also have a lot more power variety, especially if your group is full of different classes, and that means extra utility and benefits and buffs that you all can contribute as part of this group. And my final advice, if you've done everything else but you're still struggling with getting some of the new rewards from Jailer's Gauntlet, is to wait until your character gets better gear. This content isn't made to be easy or done in the first week of patch 9.2. In fact, it is tuned for item level 280 gear. If you notice some of the different item level recommendations with the different challenges, when they say it's recommended a higher item level, they really do mean they want you to have a very much higher item level that you currently have now. It's also balanced around double legendaries as well as tier sets. And even though some classes and players are able to defeat layer 8 even today, it is going to be much easier down the line with double legendaries as well as tier sets. So if you have been struggling with the Jailer's Gauntlet but you really crave and want those rewards, don't worry, in time your character will grow powerful enough to have a much easier time in this new challenge mode version of Torghast for the patch 9.2. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I do hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments what you think about some of the advice that I've given you when it comes to tackling this new challenge mode of Torghast, or if you have your own advice for the best powers or the best classes or the best build setups, then feel free to let us know what worked for you best in the comments below. If you guys enjoyed this video or found it informative, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I would very much appreciate it. And as always, in the description of every single video and live stream, we have a link to our community Discord. Probably the best place to reach out to me directly if you want to let me know what you think about this video or got questions. My DMs are always open. And if you watch these videos on the regular, you should join our Discord to join the community. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I do hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, I'll see all of you guys in another one.